Hey folks, Steve here with another Dark Valley video. Now if I get this uploaded in time, it will look like I actually did get 2 videos done this week. It's because I am managing to get a little bit of extra time that I hope to get another turn completed. I managed to complete the last turn, turn 35, relatively quickly, so I want to be able to knock out turn 36 as well. It's funny, if I didn't have to record any of this, I could probably just play through pretty quickly. But I know you guys really like the in-depth look at every turn, so we're going to keep riding that as we go. We're looking at turn 36, which is the last clear weather turn for 1944, and we'll start getting into winter and worse weather before we reach the final turn. So we're at like 9 turns left to go here in the game. I think I'm just going to jump right into things in terms of looking at the reinforcements for this turn. Now there's not a whole lot for the Axis, but the Soviets actually get a number of things here, and I'm going to put this on camera so you can see what I'm talking about. As you can see here, these are the reinforcements. Remember, not the replacements, but the reinforcements. Get that. There we go. So the Axis are getting a couple of look like Tiger battalions, or maybe even a Tiger division. If I'm reading the picture correctly, I might not be. But we get some more units, some armor units, which will be useful. We also get a little piddly infantry division, not much to get excited about. For the Soviets, they get some conversions. So we've got a Guard mech corps conversion, a tank corps conversion, and 2 infantry corps conversions, which I'm really going to have to dig deep to go find where and what's being upgraded here, but it should be relatively straightforward to do so, and we'll make those conversions. And then we do have the Romanian armies, the Soviet Romanian armies that are going to come in. Now, I believe they have to come in as regular Soviet reinforcements, which means they're not just going to pop up in Romania. At least I don't think so. I'll have to double check, but I think they're going to have to come in somewhere like Odessa or Sonaudi. I don't think they can go into Constanta. I'll have to double check. If they can come into Constanta, that'd be great, but I don't think they're going to be able to do that. Still, having 2 extra 2-step units to join the fray is a welcome help. In terms of the replacements this turn, the Axis is still getting their 4 infantry motorized replacements, 2 Panzer Grenadier steps, and 2 mech steps. But they're only going to get that for this turn and next turn, and then I think they're done with replacement points, except for the emergency replacement points that they get once we cross over into Germany proper. They get some steps for that. So we're going to look at taking care of the reinforcements and replacements. We're going to do the air base phase, and then we will look at the strategic movement. So when we all come back after this, we'll look at the action phase as usual. So I'll talk to anything special that comes up with those replacements, but should be a pretty straightforward thing there. So we'll be right back, guys. Okay, well, we've got the reinforcements down, and we did our strategic movement. So some of it is just coming down to trying to hold some mountain passes, getting some units placed. We actually got some stuff railed around so that we have the gap along the Pripyat March is actually filled out as the Axis. And for the Soviets, it's really just bringing all the units forward to a place where they can be useful. And we've got some tank corps in Stavka for some fun action there. But here's something I realized. I was going through the reinforcement or the replacement rules, and I think I've been overpaying for my Guard tank armies quite a bit. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think over many turns, ever since we started getting Guard tank armies, I've been overpaying to bring them to full strength from reduced, but I don't think it's been a huge impact to the game, and I gave myself a couple of extra replacement points to try to make up for it, because I know I've just been doing that for a long time. So um, anyway, that the Soviets are topped off pretty well, and now it's going to be about the continued push. Now I think what the challenge is here is that the Axis do have a line. We haven't quite created a true breakthrough that we can use, except for down here where things are kind of rough for the Axis no matter what. And if the Axis can continue to pull back safely, we're going to have a lot of problems with the Soviets, because that line is going to shorten, and we're going to have less maneuvering space with the Soviets to even make breakthroughs. So things are getting kind of tough here. Really got to figure out how to get through the areas we need to get through, I guess, is the way to look at it. One thing I want to bring up before we look at the activation chits is that for a while I had read through this book, Cataclysm, War on the Eastern Front, 41 to 45 by Keith Cummins, and I finished it a while ago, and this is a really interesting book to have accompanying your playthrough of a game like this, because this book was very much very operational in scope in terms of what the book was covering. It was constantly just like, this army went to this town and fought this army on the other side, and then this army fought this army, and it would just go for paragraphs like that. This group fought this group over and over and over again, and it wasn't. It was fine if you were looking at the map the entire time and you were kind of mapping out units fighting what units, and it's kind of interesting, but it wasn't. I don't think it wasn't a good well-rounded history of the conflict, which is kind of a bummer. And it was almost getting to the point where I was ready for the book to be over when I was reading through it. I was like, okay, I'm going to read it through to the end, but it is not as fun as it once was. And I recently, for a special occasion, got another book. I got Absolute War, Soviet Russia in the Second World War, by Chris Bellamy. Now, this is a much thicker book. It goes into, in terms of actual reading content, almost 700 pages. So conclusion there is on page 684. But what I'll say is, just flipping through the book, it is much more well-rounded, and it discusses a lot more than just army went to army, went to army, went to army, movement and combat. It really talks about all the broader context of the war and a political, politics, I guess, and social stuff, and in addition to all the war stuff. So that's my brief assessment, flipping through it and seeing what the content is. So I think we get it was $24 US or something. So I don't know. I'm not sure when I'm going to read this, because I'm now reading a different book that's not related to history that I need to get through for something else. But when I return to reading history books, it'll probably be on another topic, because I'm playing out this particular topic and want to get into something else. But this will be the next book that I read on the topic, which will be a much more well-rounded, coverage of the war. So there you go. Just something fun on the side that I'm looking at. Okay, and finally we'll look at the activation chits for this clip. Again, this is very similar to last turn's, right? It's the same recipe, except I had to pick a new Panzer activation chit. So because we knocked, as the Soviets, the 4th Panzer HQ off the map to return next turn on turn 37, my extra Panzer activation pick has to be something else, and really the only other one on the board is the 2nd Panzer, which is the one that's down in Romania. So I'm going to pick that one, obviously, I have to. And it'll at least give us maybe some extra opportunity to pull units back away from Bucharest and just sort of defend in the mountains of the Carpathians. So it's good, I guess. I would have probably have picked 4th Panzer again if I could, but I can't, so I'm going to pick the only other one there is, and it can still be useful. But again, the Axis is still limited to combat or movement, or just one or the other without a choice. And their modal chit in an emergency, I don't think we're ready to use it yet. And the Soviets similarly have what they had before. With Stavka ready to go, I do have some tank corps waiting in the wings to surge forth if need be. Probably would be better to have a guard tank army, but they're already in decent places right now, and I want to continue to use them effectively. So we'll do that. So, yeah, and I think the Soviets, in the situation that we're in right now with what's on the board and where things are at, especially down here, along here, and up through here, I think we want to. I think we want to do movement. I think that's what we want to do, is do movement first and get us set up. And even if the Axis can retreat before we attack, we'll take that risk, because right now we're getting to the point where we really just need to get guys up and forward. That's what we need to do. We don't have any other option. We got to make that case to take action. So we'll look at that, and once we're done with movement, we'll come back and see what the board looks like. Okay, here we are after Soviet movement. You can see we've moved quite a bit here. We'll start in the north. So you can see I'm starting to get close to Lenin. Just didn't have quite the movement to get all the way over there. That's okay. We're taking our time. We don't have we're actually kind of short of units to cover those hexes up there. I probably should have thought of that a little bit better, but really the Axis is pulling back along that line anyway, so I'm not too worried. Pskov is taken as we go down. The Axis had abandoned Vitebsk, and now the Soviets have advanced and have taken it, and have also lined up a number of units that will prove useful in the area. I've also moved up a lot of force for an assault on Minsk, and I actually think I have a decent chance of doing it, because I've sort of realized that I had a armor unit holding the city, and it was being held there as sort of a reaction force, and I ended up never moving it out. So I believe Mech is going to have a penalty in the city itself. So when we attack with some cavalry and some infantry, that Panzer unit's actually going to be in some deep trouble, and we're going to take that city, and we're going to cause some issues with how those units are going to be tracing supply. Now, they'll still have sort of a roundabout way to get supply, but taking that critical city is going to be very important. And really, any of these cities that are in the Soviet Union are important, because we're going to be funneling our reinforcements through these cities as we get closer to Germany. So that'll be important. Heading on down, obviously we're still getting set up to kind of blast outside of Lvov and start hitting some of these other units. And it's striking towards Krakow and Warsaw eventually. And all the way down here, you can see I surged forward with my units, and in fact I even took one armored tank army over and snuck them all the way down here. Now there's a unit in Bucharest holding it, but it's out of supply with the out of supply marker, and if we get an attack off before logistics are checked, we'll have an opportunity to maybe just straight up take Bucharest. Now, he won't be out of supply, even though there's an Axis unit sitting on the rail line there, because Constanta, as best as I can tell, is Allied controlled, Soviet controlled, because Romania switched sides. There were no Axis units holding that city. It is now a Soviet, technically Soviet-controlled port on the Black Sea. There are no Axis-controlled ports on the Black Sea, thus we can trace a supply path to Constanta. And if I'm counting right when it comes to supply, Soviet lines of supply are a maximum of 5 hexes long, and sure enough, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to Constanta, which is a supply source. So we are good to go, even though I sort of extended that guard army out there. They're good to go. Now I'm realizing I have a ton of my guard tank armies down here. At some point, once we clear through and start getting into Hungary, I'm going to rail them to another part of the line that will be more useful. But for now, they're doing a good job, because I needed to snake around some of these units and just wreak some havoc on their the supply situation, so that we can hurt these guys before they can get back across the border and back into supply. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'm not playing super effectively here, but I'm working on it. So there you go. That's the movement, and we're going to see what comes out of the cup next. If we manage to take Minsk, that would be a great opportunity to do Stavka and leap forward and take Vinitsa, because it's actually it's a potential decent spot to do that. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to pull the next chit. I think the Soviets are hoping for deep battle. Deep battle or combat would be the best thing for them right now. So pulling the chit. And we get logistics. Son of a bitch. All right. All right. Sorry for swearing. You know, there might be some people in here who don't like swearing. That's too bad. I swear. All right, there you go. We got to check logistics, and everyone's fine, except, I guess, we got to look down here and figure out what's the case. These were marked out of supply at the end of the phase, but I think they've had a chance to restore supply, and that is because there are any rail hex that west of the June 41 start line leading to the Upper Silesian region or the west map of Germany. So all of these guys are actually back in supply, which is a real bummer. That's a huge bummer because the Axis are going to count their what is it? 7 hexes to a rail supply source, so I think all these guys are fine. I maybe should have tried harder to circle around them all, but it's still a tight fit. I mean, they're not getting away too clean, and we might be able to knock them back into an encircled position. But that's bad luck. That's real bad luck. That's a bummer. That's a real bummer. We really need the logistics to come out later. Going back to the cup, what do we get? Okay, so we have, I think we're going to do Soviet combat. I've probably mixed up Axis and Soviet as I've been talking, but I think Soviet combat is the thing that we need to happen right now. In fact, it's our only choice because we already moved. So yeah, this is okay. We lost our chance for logistics to hurt the Axis later, but we are getting combat, so I'll with all of our units on the front line, more or less, that we care about. So I think we'll take this, and we'll be happy with it. And we have the potential to take out the 2nd Panzer as well, 2nd Panzer HQ. So that will be good. We'll continue to knock the Axis off their footing as best we can. So I'm going to take care of this combat. Now I am going to look at combat the whole way down the line because we have the potential to do some real damage here this turn the whole way down the line. It's going to take some time for me to do that, but I'm going to work through that, and we come back. We should see, I hope, as the Soviets, some breaks in the line and some beat up Germans. Okay, so this was a pretty important combat activation for the Soviets. You'll see why here. Down in the south, we were able to take Bucharest and are now extending our supply lines up in that direction. We're getting pretty close to seizing Ploesti, and we'll be pushing into Hungary before too long. We did eliminate the stack I attacked and got an EX. It was pretty bloody, but we eliminated 2 infantry corps, full-strength infantry corps from the Germans, and their 2nd Panzer activation. So all the all the HQs that could be on the map are now off the map at the moment, though the Germans are going to get their 4th Panzer back. They'll be able to put it somewhere useful. But we at least are smacking them, and I'll say that I suspect it won't be long before we're pushing through those mountains in Hungary. We'll have to see how it goes. I still have a lot of combat factors down here, and again, I'll have to probably reposition them. Over here, I got a BL1, so we're trying to work our way across the mountain slowly. Here, we were able to knock away completely destroy some of the SS units. We destroyed some other units around Lvov, and so now we're sort of starting to crack open a path to Krakow and Upper Silesia. We're not quite able to clear all the Zoks. There's still a stack there right here that has Zoks, so we couldn't sneak through there if we did Stavka there. But I'm feeling pretty good. That whole area, my goal was to try to smash through there, and I think we've largely done that. We've still got to push a little bit harder through there, but very, very shortly we will be able to push into Germany proper. Now, I have taken some hexes in what is labeled Germany, so I believe that does mean that the Axis is going to get their emergency reinforcements next turn if I choose to, and I may just do that, so we'll see what happens. But I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, before long, there won't be much that the Axis can do about the situation. We're going to be pushing our way through, and working on capturing some of these critical areas. Through the Pripyat Marshes area, we did some combats here. We reduced, and very critically, I was able to roll exactly what I needed for a retreat. That forced that unit back, and we were able to seize Minsk. And I forgot to exchange the marker here. I'm going to have to recount the BP cities because I think we have others here. Now, I didn't advance with more units there because, very critically, I think this is our perfect opportunity because we have a valid supply line there. I'm pretty certain I can call Stavka, Chit, plunk the reinforcements there in Minsk, and then leap out of there. Now, we can't get very far because of the Zoks in play, but now is a great time to sort of plunk those guys in there and start to cause a problem for the other Axis units, just start to be an inconvenience for some of these guys that are deeper in this area here that may not be able to trace supply very well soon. Again, just very important, we have a rail line out of Minsk, so that is strongly held territory for the Soviets now. We can begin to push out of Minsk into, I guess, the Baltics towards Riga. We could do that. We could start pushing towards Kaunas and Memel. Great gain, important gain, I should say. Out of here, we're going to need to exploit that as best as possible. Elsewhere, we push some units back. Over here, we knock some units out and are sort of creating an issue for the Axis there. You can start to see maybe what could become a pocket in time. And then elsewhere along the line, we didn't make too much progress there, but that's okay. You know, the difficult thing is, if we get a lot of DR results, we're just going to push the Axis back. What we really got to try to do is cause, EX results and DEs where possible so that we can not, push guys backwards and disable us from being able to do encirclements. But we caused so many step losses to the Axis this turn that they're hurting pretty bad. Things are starting to disintegrate. We're making good progress. So we're going to go to I'm not going to go to the cup. I'm going to do Stavka. We're going to elect to do Stavka here. And we're going to plunk these 3 Guard Tank Corps into Minsk, and then we're going to have them spring out of here. Now, they won't go very far, unfortunately. Unless, nope, there's Zoks there as well. Yeah, this is somewhat difficult because you need to try to find a great place to put these guys and a place where they can attack. We'd have 12 combat factors. I'm actually going to take myself off camera here and figure out what I really want to do with the Stavka activation. I think I want to do it, but I need to figure out what. And I think we'll pop them in, they'll move somewhere, and then we'll attack somewhere. And hopefully that will do what we need to do. Alright, we'll be right back. Okay, well, we decided to move right there, and we attacked that stack. And it was a bunch of tanks fighting in the forest, which doesn't go very well, but I rolled well enough to get a BL1, which I think the really important thing to keep in mind here is that caused the unit to lose its Zok, and you'll see that's very important. If we get Deep Battle as the next Chit, which is what I hope we get, that could allow us to attack that spot again, and then actually move forward and take Vilnius, which would be pretty nasty. I mean, I don't think it totally screws the Axis over, but I think it puts enough pressure on them that they need to do something to resolve the issue. So we'll see. I'm not sure. Maybe this was a bad choice. Now that I'm thinking about it, the Axis may have enough ability to respond to that to cause some problems for me. So maybe this was dumb. I don't know. But we're going to go to the next Chit Cup draw and see what happens. And we get... we get Axis Combat. So... well, that'll be the interesting thing. What can we do? What can we do? The Axis air is all used up, by the way. They had to use up all their air in defense. So they only have their assault marker. That's a +2 on attack. The Axis could try to take Minsk back. I guess that would be the only thing. I took a chance, and I didn't put as many units in Minsk as I could have, because I wanted to put reinforcements there. So I maybe overextended myself here a little bit. We'll have to see what's feasible. But yeah, Axis combat, I'm going to go through, I'm going to check the line. Not likely there to be a attack from the Axis, but we'll see. The other thing is, at what point do we use modal? And I think something's got to happen here soon, that I need to use them to get into better shape here down in the Lvov area, so I may use modal this turn. It's going to depend on what happens on deep battle, I guess. So I'm going to take myself off camera, we'll see what Axis combats are feasible, and we'll come back. Okay, so there were no Axis attacks that make sense, except to attack Minsk. So here's the situation. If we had the tank attack into the city, it would get half, so we'd say 3, and it would be 8 from here, 8, 3, 11 attacking 5, which would be 2 to 1, reduced down to 1 to 1. I mean, it just doesn't work. So the Axis does not attack to take Minsk back. They just don't have the force composition in play there to take it back. So whatever risk was there is honestly fine for the moment. There's not much we can do. So I'm going to pull the next chit. Now it is important what comes out of here, I guess. So I think the Soviets really want it to be deep battle, but I'm not sure that it will be. And we get Axis move. So this is unfortunate for this is unfortunate for the Soviets. There was an opportunity here to really kind of catch the Axis in really rough shape, but no dice there. They're going to get to move. Then the final activations are going to end up being, I don't think they're going to do modal this turn now, but it would be deep battle, and you can't really see that, but the Second Panzer is not going to be played, obviously, because there's no HQ to activate, but we do have deep battle. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the Axis movement, and obviously I think the Axis is going to move to get out of firing range of the Soviets here, and then the Soviets will have deep battle. The best thing they're really going to probably be able to do is if they can get any attacks off, they'll do that, and then the post-combat move is what really is going to help here. It's going to help get them to where they need to be for the next turn, maybe, to do some damage. So we're going to take care of the Axis movement. You're going to see a retraction of the Axis line across the board, probably, and then we'll come back before I do the deep battle chit, and we'll just kind of see where things are at, and we'll do deep battle, and that will be the turn. So we'll be right back. Okay, here we are after Axis movement. You can see we've pulled back. We've even established an anchor here on the coast that runs now all the way down through, and there's still some contact zones, but not many, and you can see we stretch all the way down through. There's a little bit of a gap here, but the mountains kind of help, and there's a little bit of a chance we're going to have these guys foul up, but and then obviously the pullback here. I'd say that in terms of the strategic retreat here, I think the Axis did very well in being able to get that chit when they did. Had deep battle gone off first, I mean, I think that would have been, there probably would have been enough losses for the Axis that they were just super doomed. This was their opportunity. They can pull back a little bit. They're doing okay. They can still control the losses, even though, I mean, at this point, I think their losses are outpacing their replenishments for sure, and it's just playing the clock, right? We're all playing the clock now, but Germany is, starting to be invaded, so that's going to be a key thing here. That doesn't leave a whole lot of options for deep battle. And before I go off camera again to handle deep battle, I want to show just sort of something to watch out for. And I think the map as it has been constructed in terms of where rail lines are and where hexes are and what terrain is what is really useful. I think it's really interesting because it's well played out where the Axis has supply lines that can run 7 hexes, and that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But the Soviets only have 5, and that can sort of matter because, like, when it comes to the Carpathians, right, the rail lines through Hungary basically run from here, sort of see it here. They run through here, right there, right? And then the only other ones, these two. And so you might say, well, heck, Soviets push through the mountains, right? Take losses, but push through the mountains. Well, the nearest rail line that they can control along here is all the way back here. So you figure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, once you get to like the midpoint of the mountains, anything beyond that, you're out of supply. So it does kind of force us to, I mean, I have Axis units here just to kind of be a nuisance so that the Soviets can't like skirt around and encircle these rail lines, right? That's why these guys are here. They're not totally useless by being in those mountains. And they're fine on supply. But it just makes it really hard that the Soviets, at least around the Carpathians, really have to get up and around and get through those rail hexes because it's the rail hexes that control their ability to project supply into these areas. So we're doing okay there. We're going to start to bring these units down and around to seize the southern passes. Once we're actually past the mountains is where we'll either put these guys in isolation or whatever once we're in the backfield. So that's kind of what we have to do. It's what we have to be playing at the moment. Though kind of reaching the point where I probably could start pulling these guys back a little bit. They're probably going to need to at this point, just with the forces coming across the border here. So, you know, we're getting awfully close to where the war began, but there's still a lot of action to go here. So I'm going to take myself off camera. We'll see if there's anything left to do for deep battle, and then we'll come back and close out the turn. All right, here we are after the deep battle. We actually didn't really have the ability to do any good combats, but we did use the movement to get guys moved forward. I'm not sure that what I have set up here is going to be enough to do like a deep battle on the first shit. It's something to consider. I'll have to evaluate that when I come back to the map next week to record a video to see if it makes sense anywhere. I can see some cases where it might, but I really don't know if it'll be worthwhile. So we'll have to look at that. Otherwise, you know, we've made some progress here. We're sitting at 17 victory points, and really, you know, anywhere we go from here on out is going to be chock full of victory points as the Soviets. So we're going to see that number drop a lot. And at this point, if I look at the map, pretty much, other than units I left in Odessa for no good reason, pretty much all the active units are now on the west part of the map here. So it's a one-map game now, guys. We're closing in, so a lot more action to happen. Next time, as the weather starts to get a little worse with some mixed weather, the last full summer of the game is just about over, and we are into Germany now with, well, Romania's under control for the most part, Hungary's under the gun, and Germany has lost a few hexes of territory to the Soviets. So, plenty of exciting stuff to happen here. This was turn 36. Next time we'll do turn 37. We're working our way through to the end of the game, guys. Coming close. So, we'll see you guys next time. So, take care and keep on gaming.